Hi, and a great big warm welcome to the Ask Zofie podcast. This is officially season 2, episode 21. I did write down 22, but then luckily checked it and have corrected it before I sent it out with a mistake. Not that it would have obviously been the end of the world, but yeah, welcome. I just recorded last week's podcast. At the end, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to do next week's yet or wait, but here I am. So if you listened to last week's and you heard me share on my current situation, which will now be in the past, obviously, as you listen to this, relative to what was my upcoming move, I can't update you yet, although you'll know from my Instagram if you follow me there, or probably my member email because I will have updated you. But if you don't, I don't know yet. So you'll have to maybe wait till next week. But I'm going to answer a question today from one of my members and one of my followers that is something that's helpful for all of us. And in it, she speaks to something that I've seen come up heaps on, just thinking if it was on my own journey, but probably yes, but definitely with lots of people with whom I've worked over the years. So I'm going to get to that in a minute. Before I do that, actually, I'm going to do my love notes pick first. I think I wasn't sure if I was going to do my behind the scenes, but I'm going to do my love notes pick first. I quite like how my nails are a bit matching with mine. Got my Valentine's card behind me that Daniel kindly sent me, and actually still the flowers that some of my favorite I've ever had because I really love the combination of the colors together. They're so vibrant. Aren't the spring flowers just like so pretty? And who else, by the way, is ready, like so ready? I'm obviously not a fan of complaining, but I do love sunshine and I'm so ready for spring and I think just a bit of warmth. Anyway, as ever, I'm off the topic. So let's pick us a page from Love Notes. I haven't done it in advance, so I'm going to see what comes up. I'm using the same copy I did last week because obviously I'm recording this on the same day. You're just listening later. Maybe not if you're binge listening. Okay, hang on. This is quite a long one, actually. I'm going to read out both pages because that's what I'm feeling called to do. So page 148 and 149. Your deep desire to know me is my deep desire to know you. Your deep desire to know me is my deep desire to know you. And then, how can you tell that your pain is not merely mine? Your yearnings don't belong to me. You cannot, I tell you, for you are me and I am you, eternally bound by unbreakable love. The twine that binds us is grace itself. We are woven in union by peace with love. Okay, that one's like getting me teary-eyed. I'm going to read that one again. How can you tell that your pain is not merely mine? Your yearnings don't belong to me. You cannot, I tell you, for you are me and I am you, eternally bound by unbreakable love. The twine that binds us is grace itself. We are woven in union by peace with love. And one of the reasons that is getting me teary is that it speaks to something that I've shared on before, which is I'm just going to call it a reframe, for want of a better description, that came to me a while back when I was like in a moment of like that yearning energy to God, to the divine, like, where are you? I need you. And what came through was like that energy saying back to me, where are you? I need you. And it was, like I've said before, the most bring me to my knees humbling experience that just like, it's not about asking that divinity to come to you. It's figuring out what do you need to do to go to that divinity. And actually last night, I think it was, it's been a whirlwind, so I'm not sure when it was, but recently I had the thought of, and I can't remember the words verbatim, that whenever you hold out your hand to me, my hand will be there for you. Like the hand of the divine, the hand of God is omnipresent, is ever held out. It's only ever us, from our human perspective, who are not, metaphorically speaking, holding out our hands. I don't know if that makes sense, but hopefully it does. Okay. Before I get into answering today's question, I want to share something that you might know. I have done a lot of work in my, whatever it is now, I think 17, 18 years, I've lost count, as a therapist and a coach with kids and with parents. And obviously I am a parent myself. What you can't see also as another behind the scenes is, I'm just showing you, but I've got my heated blanket on like a proper grandma to keep me warm. I don't have really big fluffy socks on, which I often do, which is not a sexy look, but I have got my old lady blanket. But it's so nice. It's, for me, you know, like one of the simple pleasures of life is like if you ever happen to take a towel out of the tumble dryer and it's warm and put it on, or like if I get into bed and I've got the heated blanket on, it's just the perfect temperature. Like nothing kind of beats that for me. But anyway, I'm again off piste. So I've worked loads with parents and kids, and yeah, I get to practice this stuff woohoo, myself in my own life. And so one of the things that I know for sure is that what happens in terms of the whole of life full stop is that it is all a mirror. Like it's more complicated and nuanced and deeper than this. But essentially everything outside of you is a reflection of what's inside of you. And so others are ever mirroring back to us. You know, it's like that saying, you teach others how to treat you, for example. You know, if you are really down on yourself and not kind to yourself, you're going to attract people who treat you in a similar manner because of this external reflecting the internal vibe that's going on. And I don't think there's anywhere where this is more powerful and potent than with our own children. Like typically, the closer you are with someone and the longer you've been in each other's lives, which often, of course, is with family members and so on, it's not necessarily, but it's often the case, then there will be this more powerful mirroring because of the momentum that's ensued. But in my experiences it's with our children that the mirror is the most powerful, because what they tend to do, if not invariably do, is they will mirror our stuff back to us, but it is magnified. And this is the challenge, right? The challenge of being a parent, the challenge of being human. It is much easier typically for me to sit in the therapist chair and say to someone else, or reflect back to someone else, this is your blind spot, this is what's happening, than it is for me, although I'm pretty coachable and I've done a lot of work to find this easier, but nonetheless, to be the one who someone's saying, this is your blind spot, Zofie. Like it's always easier, for example, to see other people's stuff, and it's easier to focus here than on our own stuff. It takes great humility to actually go, okay, well, what's my part to play in this? What have I got to work on? And this is so the case with parenting. And so my kind of behind the scenes is that there's two things actually. Well, I'm going to 2 points that are related to the same thing. But when I first moved into the house I'm in now, which hopefully as you're listening to this, I won't be in anymore. But anyway, as I record, I remember my daughter was particularly like ADHD-ish. You know, she just couldn't sit down. She was like all over the shop. I love that saying, it's so funny. And I was like, she's obviously reflecting something in me. And I think it might be more dramatic than that. But anyway, I was like, well, I don't feel like that. And it's like, well, I know this stuff to be true, so let's look a little deeper. Let's not just go with my first initial, you know, probably ego-based response, because that's how it tends to go. Where can I find even a facet of this in me? And it's like, okay, well, I have actually been busier than usual, and I haven't settled as much as I would ordinarily. And the challenge with kids is that it is so magnified that it's easy to go, well, I'm not doing that. But I could see it, and then as soon as I could see it, you bring it into the light of day, you bring self-awareness into the picture, you can do something about it, and then because you're changing you, the reflection also changes. And what prompted me wanting to share this is that in the last week or so, I've noticed that there's some things going on with my daughter, and I'm not going to share just because it relates to her, and I don't have her permission to. So last night I was like, okay, well, you know, I work this stuff, I believe that it works, and I, you know, as I always say, I walk the walk. So how is she mirroring something in me? And it's like, okay, instead of like, no, I'm not doing that, it's like, where might this be the case? And I realized, yeah, okay, I can see that it's here. And then the ego wants to go, it's not about me, I'm fine. that's just one way of thwarting you. And it does take, like I say, great humility and openness and a desire to genuinely want what's best for all parties involved. And it's really not easy. Like I say, it really isn't, because it triggers the mind, it triggers ego. And the reason it does this is because the ego knows that when we are really shifting something on the inside, we are really going to up level, and the ego is going to diminish and ultimately could spell its own death. And of course, it doesn't want this. And so that's always a good sign. But if you can step into that humility, one of the things that, I can't remember if I've spoken about this before on the podcast or anywhere actually apart from in Reframe, is the mirror technique. And you can use this anytime someone is doing something that you don't like. So it might be, he's so rude to me, might be your judgmental statement of the situation. And you flip it and you say, I'm so rude to me. And then you go, well, I'm not rude to me. That's what the ego says. But you're like, I'm going to be open. I'm going to look for even these tiny examples of where I'm rude to me. I'm wondering if I can think of an example off the top of my head now to share with you to illustrate how to work through it. It might be that I've thought about someone, they don't take any notice of my needs. Okay, so it's like, right, I don't take any notice of my needs. Where is this true? And it's like, well, there are times when I don't feel maybe well enough, and I push on through. And then you ask, you tune into the part of you that's doing that to you. Okay, so I'm like, what is the part of me that's doing that to me? What does that part of me need? She needs reassurance, she needs love, and it might be she or he needs a hug or to be listened to, and you go, I'm going to give that to you. And what you're doing each time is you're taking ownership, you're taking responsibility, you're healing these kind of fractured parts of you. It probably has something to do with, like, ultimately inner child healing, whatever, it's all inner stuff. And then as you're shifting, of course, life mirrors it back. And like I say, it's not the easiest thing to do because it triggers one's ego, but it's so worth it. And I would say, particularly if you have kids and they're being clingy towards you, or they're being aggressive, or they won't settle, or they're anxious, do this mirror thing. Like they're so worried all the time. And you're like, well, I'm worried. Where am I worried? What am I worried about? Even if it's the tiniest little speck, because they magnify it, you shifting that speck will have a big difference in your physical reality and how it goes with your kids. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. I just wanted to share because it's helpful. So, okay, I'm just looking on my phone because I am answering today a question that, like I say, was from a member of mine who DM'd me on this thing, and I answered her, and I'm going to share what I said to her and sort of elaborate on it. So this is someone who has been following me for a while. She's in my membership. She's done Manifesting Miracles and all sorts of things. So she's on the path, right? And she's been on it for a while. And she said, I'm reading this kind of verbatim, I felt so happy and positive and aligned, but since the weekend, it's all come crashing down. I feel worried, insecure, sad. I'm pretty sure it's hormones and my mind tricking me. I've just done the writing exercise. Thank you. And then some nice things. And also, is it because I'm about to grow and my mind is tricking me? I felt so good. I want this to pass. I know it will. And then I replied to her, and I'm going to elaborate on this. So, a few things. The first one is, when you're doing great or better, and obviously she is, because she's on this path, she's working on herself. And if you're someone, and probably you are, if you're listening to this, and you might be, in my membership, might have worked one-to-one, done Manifesting Miracles, whatever it is, in Reframe, you're almost certainly in some way, shape or form on this kind of self-development, spiritual path, call it what you want. So what I said to her is, when you're doing great or better, the lows will seem worse, but they're not. It's actually an awesome sign of growth. Okay, so this is something, because I'm long in the tooth at this game, I've heard it all, seen these themes that happen when people are growing, which is how I can speak to these challenges with such knowing and such confidence. And so one of the things that I've seen myriad times is somebody will be doing better. They're on this general trajectory of sort of up and up, but naturally we have ebbs and flows and we have dips. Now, sorry, I'm sort of showing this with my hand, but you can't see that if you're just listening, but I'm just kind of showing an upward sort of trajectory. But anyway, if you're starting down here low, let's just say it's a 2 out of 10 on the happiness scale, And that's your norm, right? That's your kind of set point. If you go up to a 6 and then you go back to a 2, that 2 is going to feel awful to you. It was normal before. And I'm sure Daniel won't mind me saying, but when we first met, he would like go out and have maybe, I don't know, 6 or 7 pints. And I'd say, don't you feel like crap the next day? And he'd be like, nah, I'm fine. I'd be like, I'm not so sure about that. And now that he doesn't drink as much and he's healthier, because he has good influence in his life, believe it or not, I am a good influence. Anyway, don't shout no at me. So if you're one of my friends, you're like, she's not a good influence. I really am. Anyway, so now that he is healthier, when he does go and do that, guess what? He notices it more because that's not the norm for him. There are some people, many people, like if I was suddenly in their mind and their emotions in their body, it would feel like, holy apples, I have just been hit by some kind of truck. But for them, that's their norm. So the reframe here, the powerful flipping of the script is to see, yes, as I've said to this lovely lady, this is actually an awesome sign of growth. Now, when I come out of alignment, I feel terrible. Like I said a minute ago, I feel like I've been hit by a ton truck or a ton of bricks, something heavy anyway, whatever it might be. It does not feel good because I'm so used to being up here. Again, I'm gesturing, sorry, you can't see that if you're listening, but high vibing. When I come down from that, it's like a real shock to the system. And ultimately, of course, that's an awesome thing. I remember years ago on Abraham Hicks, someone said, why does a dog stick its head out of the window when a car's moving, even though it gets bugs in its eyes? And they were like, because it's so worth it. And it's the same here. It's worth feeling crap when you come out of alignment to be in alignment. And then the other thing I said to her is, without going deep, have a think about what you did or thought before you started to feel pants. That's my technical term. Was it less sleep, more drinking? Was something triggered? This kind of self-awareness is golden. Like if I sometimes say to clients, you know, when they don't feel good or they haven't had such a great week, like if I'd have been following you around, I'd have been able to say, that's where it started. That's where the thing I say all the time, you give the mind an inch and it takes a mile. That's where you gave the inch. That's where you kind of stepped into the rabbit hole. You stayed up till midnight. You woke up the next day with your alarm. You were groggy. And then it spiraled. And so, as I've said to her, you don't want to think too deep about this because we don't want to figure out what doesn't work and focus here. But we do want to know. We ultimately want to keep doing what does work. That's why we want the mainstay of our attention. But at the same time, it's helpful to have that self-awareness. When I do this, this is the consequence. This is the cause and this is the consequence. Otherwise, we just think, oh my God, I was doing so great. And then this random thing happened and now I feel crap. No. In therapy, there's something called, oh my goodness, the name totally escapes me now. Oh, elegant change. Okay, that's it. So this is a term that describes the optimum state that a therapist would, quote unquote, get a client to. And what it means is you know what to do to be on track. You also know what to do if you come off track, and ultimately you know what works, so you don't panic. And I've talked about this before. When I was at university and having panic attacks, and anyone who's ever had a panic attack knows that it's not a vibe. I didn't know how it was happening. I just felt like I was going to die. I wanted to get out of my body and all these crazy things. When something that horrible happens and you don't even know how it happened, that's really scary. But now I understand it, and people with whom I've worked would understand, well, this is just what you're doing. It doesn't freak you out in the same way. That's a really, really helpful thing to understand. Abraham Hicks sometimes say it didn't come out of the blue, it came out of the oblivious. This is why self-awareness is so golden, and understanding thoughts create feelings, and then feelings create actions, and it all ultimately creates your whole reality. It's not just randomly coming from somewhere. And small caveat, yes, sometimes life does take you through challenging situations because it knows from that deeper or higher perspective that there's something more for you. But as a rule, these things aren't randomly happening to you. Okay. Yeah, so she'd mentioned, could this be fear doing a number on her because she's listened to me and heard what I say about fear speaks loudest when you're on the precipice of great change and so on. And I said, of course you're right. It can also be you're doing great, so fear wants to try and stop you. Again, an awesome sign, actually. And I say this all the time to people when they're like, my mind's going crazy. Yes, this is freaking awesome. What does this mean? If your mind is losing its you know what, you're on that precipice. You're about to do something awesome. So I'm not a proponent of feel the fear and do it anyway necessarily. But instead, I would say, know that the fear is potentially an awesome sign, be aware of this and soothe it, and then keep going forward. But don't necessarily just go, I'm just going to like power through, because then it can get a bit messy. And then the other thing I said to her is, it's natural to have dips. So when I first trained, I was like, right. I'm laughing at me saying that because Daniel laughs at me when I go, right. And the other day, I was so tired. We were chatting about something on the phone and I went, right, right. How did I say it? Right. It's like, wow. It was like a total sea change from my right to right. That was a real barometer of my tiredness levels at the time. Oh my goodness, I feel like I'm really going to sneeze, but I'm going to try and hold it off. Have you ever had that where you've had to like hold in a sneeze? I remember having it when I think Yara was sleeping in the bed with me when she was a baby, or she just got to sleep or something, and it did not feel good because my whole body wanted to sneeze, and I stopped it. Anyway, again, I'm off piste. So yeah, I used to think when I first trained, can't remember if I've got to the end of this point, but when I first trained that I had to be positive all the time because people are looking up to me and I'm serious about what I do, serious but non-serious anyway. And it's like, can't ever have a dip. And then I realized shortly afterwards, that's not necessary. It's not possible. And it puts way too much pressure on. So this is something I also see in my clients and members and so on. So what I said to her is, it's natural to have dips. Know this. I've said no in capital letters. Know this, and the more you can be easier about it, the quicker it will pass. So I would say, don't try and be happy all the time for the reasons I've just mentioned, but aim to feel mostly good. What I've said to her is, aim to feel as good as you can, as often as you can, and don't beat up on yourself when you don't. I'm going to say that again because it's so helpful. Aim to feel as good as you can, as often as you can, and don't beat up on yourself when you don't. And yeah, okay, I was just checking if I wanted to say something else, but that's cool. And then I said to her, it's all in capital letters, it's all for you. The when things suck module is perfect for times like this. Yeah, sorry, that's in reframe. And then I said, don't spend loads of time wondering what went wrong. Instead, spend your time and energy on doing what works, which I've also obviously mentioned to you. Yeah, we don't want to get caught in that rabbit hole of trying to figure out and understand what went wrong, because that stuff is gonna take you down. There was something else. Okay, yeah. The other thing that she said was, I felt so good, I want this to pass. Okay, she's being honest there. She felt so good and she wants it to pass. But this desire to, and she's not said this in her words, but I can feel it in her energy. I really want this to go. It really, that's tension, okay? And I've talked about this before. The thing that I've come to know when we boil all this stuff down and make it really simple is that anything that leans you into ease is leaning you into a state of allowing. In other words, it's leaning you into a state of allowing in every freaking thing, situation, emotion, thing, person you've ever asked for. Anything that puts you into a state of tension is a block for you. In my How to Not F It Up masterclass, this is what I talk about, how to not block yourself. And actually, wonder if I can see, because I might just put this in the show notes, but, oh yeah, okay. So I think it's going to be on, tomorrow, the 28th of Feb, I will be selling a really special bundle of both the How to Not F It Up masterclasses, I think I said workshop a minute ago, and the money mindset masterclass and the magnetize money meditation. You can purchase those through you can either message me or you can get the link on my Instagram as a bundle to specifically help you with your money mindset. These are the things, particularly the meditation and also the stuff I share in the workshop, that I've used to big time up level my money game in the last, I think it's about 6 or 7 months in earnest. So that's going to be on sale for a short period of time, I can't remember how long, from tomorrow, and I think it's $19.99 for those three masterclasses and the meditation, and there's a worksheet in there too. So message me if you want any more details on that. But yeah, so back to my point, which is the tension, anything that puts you into tension. I really want this to go. Like if I was thinking about now, I really want to be in that apartment. I really want to move. That tension, we don't mean to, but that tension is a block. So you want to do whatever you can, whatever way, whatever how, to lean yourself to keep leaning into ease. And this doesn't mean that you like I'm going to say this publicly. My ex-husband just used to be like, you just want to live on cloud nine, Zofie, and do nothing all day. I mean, I do want to live on cloud nine. That's true. And some would say I do, and maybe I do, and I'm really happy to have that said about me. But I don't want to sit around and do nothing all day. Like you can't stop me from doing this podcast because I've got this energy and this desire to show up and serve, and I love it. The same when I'm writing my blooming meditations and doing them, like that takes energy and passion. But we don't want the tension, because yes, it is about taking action, but it's inspired action as much as you're able to. So the point is, so I'm getting all wonky in that, but the point is that be as easy as you can. Yeah, you want it to pass, but that needing it to pass, again, it's the, can't remember if I said this to her, but it's the want, not need energy that I talk about in Reframe. That's the kind of vibe, is getting yourself into that. Hopefully that makes some sense. But that's really a point. The answer that I'm giving here is really a point for when you're doing well and then you seem to fall off the bandwagon or fall off the horse or whatever it might be. And the thing I also just feel called to say is that, like, you might know I'm doing a kind of it's not a health kick, but it's like a health plan that I ultimately want to change as I go through life and stay on to in different variations of it. But the woman who's helping me with that, who's great, by the way, she's called Anna from Health Means Happiness. She does loads of free YouTube videos, workouts, and great stuff on Instagram. Go follow her, by the way. But she said to me, like, it's okay, or in her one of the worksheets, like, it's okay to have, you know, a cheat meal or whatever, or but just don't let the whole day go off, or like the whole week. And this diet mentality that we all have, which is like, oh, I've had 2 biscuits, I might as well have the whole packet. This is the mind speaking, right? It makes no sense. Just because you've had a sucky day or a sucky experience, don't then go into the rabbit hole and let fear loose. Why did I say that? It sounded really Welsh then. In your life. Does that make sense? I don't know if I'm absolutely rambling now, but hopefully that makes some sense. All right, thank you so much as ever for watching or listening. I think I'm getting slightly better at saying that. Have an awesome rest of your day. And yeah, as always, if you've enjoyed this episode or there's been like a nugget in it for you, you're like, oh my God, I love that, please let me know. I love getting your messages, or share it on social media and tag me, because that just makes my day. And I will be back next week. And in the meantime, sending you lots of love.